shock. Big surprise. We know Satanism and UFO and aliens all go together. And so they're looking like they're very fragmented, but really they're all working together very tightly behind the scenes.
So often fragmented groups will infight at times and then pull together at times.
Yeah, because one minute it looks like they're all fighting cats and dogs, and the next minute they're all just working very closely together.
What do you think of that thing that was in the news this week about Prince Harry having that costume on that was...
wearing the swastika costume to the party?
Yes.
Wait, you know what, I've seen he is a candidate to be the Antichrist. He is, because there's always the wild card, and of course people think it's the dominant card that the UK is Prince William is going to be the Antichrist. And I've never seen it with him. I have seen it with Prince Harry. But for the most part, the UK is about like America. I mean, but the UK, one comet in the Atlantic, and they're gone. And they're expecting that comet to hit every year. They don't know when it's coming. And they're trying to foretell when it's going to come so they can get the royal family out of there. And that's why they've got so much rain in Colorado here. So they can whisk them over here while everybody else in the UK gets destroyed by the comet. But I just don't see it coming out of Europe, you know, because the Old Testament prophesies it's the king of Babylon. We know who Babylon is.
Yes.
And so this whole thing with Prince Harry, though, I'll get back to that, is that it sounds like to me that there's going to be something going on up there for all the Satan freaks to gather there. And they're conditioning people for the fact that William and Harry will be going there. I don't think this whole thing was just some innocent, you know. They don't do stuff like that, you know what I mean? I mean, they're making too big of a fuss over it to get everybody conditioned to the fact that they will be going to Auschwitz. And I think my people at the New World Order versus Christians group's been right on top of that one. We all saw that one coming. You know, where it's just some kind of conditioning.
It's very likely, and you just don't see any discernment today. You don't see much true concern.
Yeah, well, you know, so many people are snowballed into delusions. They love their delusions, and that's why they're so asleep. You know, you can't discern if you're sleeping, or if you stay. You know, the same information you knew 20 years ago is the same information you have today. You got to keep learning, keep reading, keep up on events.
That's true. There's so much going on.
Yeah, it really is, and it's all going to come to a close, and you know, it's going to happen very rapidly. I think that's going to take people by the most surprise, and that's something the Lord keeps saying is it's going to happen like a flood. Everything's at once. And I think that's just going to take a lot of people back because, like I said, we're all waiting for that one event that will let everybody know, okay, this is the tribulation period. You know, so everybody knows exactly where we are in it. And it's just not going to happen. I think it's just way too, you know, when the image is erected, obviously, and if you bow or you die. You know, I don't know how many times I've heard prophecy gurus say that if you don't accept the mark of the beast or the chip, that they'll kill you. And they kill you because you don't bow to the image, not because you won't accept the mark. You know, in Revelation 13, it says those who refuse to bow to the image will be killed. So, I think once people see that, then maybe they'll realize. I think, you know, by that point the church is going to be gone. It's either going to be decimated or protected by him at that point. You know, he told the Church of Philadelphia that he would protect them from that hour. So I don't know, but I still don't think that even getting up to that point that it's going to be easy cakewalk. There's going to be a lot of destruction coming.
It's amazing how during World War II so many people survived miraculously when so many around them died. Yeah.
And, you know, with that whole story, people get so, you know, it's one of those touchy things, but what they don't realize is that they were killed by their own. You know, it was the Edomite Jews. They were trying to get rid of all the Torah-believing Jews, and so allowed the whole thing to happen.
Yeah, it's a shame that more Americans aren't exposed to the wonderful Torah-believing Jews who are very devout, kind.
Torah-believing Jews are very few and far between. I mean, they are totally outnumbered by the Talmud-believing Jews, and then even the supposed Christian church. You know, Torah-believing Jews are very, very outnumbered. Very small minority group.
They may be a small group, but they're spiritually
powerful.
Powerful and devout. They do love God. They're often very kind people.
Well, the thing about the Christians today is that they're so filled with appalling doctrines that they you know, one minute he's telling you to follow the law, and the next, you know, he's telling you to not follow the law. They're confused. They don't know what the truth is. And Jesus said he didn't come to destroy, but to fulfill it. And the reason it was going, you know, the new covenant was that it was written on our hearts, as opposed to being written on tablets. When he was here, and before he left, they celebrated Passover. You know, he celebrated these feasts with his disciples. It never stopped. But then, you know, in came Paul, who followed the feast himself at the same time telling everybody else not to follow the law. So what is it? That's thrown the church into mass confusion. And that's why, you know, one of the biggest, you know, things I always say is to pray for the truth in all things daily, so that he can reveal the truth to people, get the blinders off of them. You know, when you're born, from the time you're sitting in bad doctrine churches, all your lives hearing the same things over and over and over again, these people don't know what the truth is.
I'm so glad you brought up the information about Paul, in that it's started excellent debate all over the country. I think it's clarified a lot of people's thinking, and a lot of people have gone back to reading the red letters and enjoying the scriptures and understanding them at a deeper level, rather than being terribly confused by the writings of Paul.
You know, amen. I mean, people always see me as starting up a controversy every other time I turn around, but the thing is, you know, I just reveal and speak out the truth the Lord tells me to. And there's not many groups around the internet that like me for it. You know, and you feel like you're just surrounded by wolves all the time.
It can be exhausting.
Yeah, it is. But you know what? You just hold your ground. And then, you know, 4 years ago, the church was so asleep about Bush, and now everybody's, you know, a lot of people waking up, and then the whole thing about, you know, the fact that there is a serpent seed line, which is the sons of Cain. Because people want to know, how can these people how could a loving God doom these people to wrath? And he's not dooming them. They belong to Satan to begin with. They're his own seed. And so, you know, it's always been a war, a battle between the Lord and Satan. One that he's allowed. You know, he allows it to be that way until he finally takes full power, you know, full reign of this earth at the end. He uses him for his purposes. You know, and everything God does throughout the centuries, he's done to test his people. And whether it be a tree of life in the Garden of Eden, or whether it be a tree of life, or, you know, knowledge of good and evil in the Garden of Eden, or whether it be in the KJV, he's used it to test his people if they're following his commands to seek him for the truth. Because Israel's always been in idolatry and apostasy. The majority is always wrong. And that's the way it goes with the churches today. The majority is wrong. And of course, churches don't even realize half of them are Israel. There's not many Americans that don't have some kind of Israelite blood leading back to one of the 14 tribes.
It's important to see